Testing, testing. Hello. What's good? Hombres.
You do talk so loud.
I know. It's part of the craft. The craft of projection. So also remember, camera's there. Sometimes eye contact works nicely.
Okay.
A schmovie on my nose.
Wait, it's actually still.
Eh.
Yeah, look at
I
me.
look like a fool.
It's windy.
Nice cool breeze. Carrying the winds of hope.
Carrying the winds of chill.
Hope that Clive survived.
Hope that
Clive lived.
Joshua
I can't-
lived.
Huh?
Joshua lived.
Joshua lived, but Clive died.
For the sake of argument, I'm going to be on the Joshua lived bandwagon.
Do you actually believe it though?
I get what people are saying. I don't believe it.
It's gonna slump.
You're gonna slump?
No, we're gonna slump.
Oh.
Clive didn't die for bad posture. World of no magic, no bearers, no dominance.
No
Good.
slouching.
No slouching. That's the case. Goots is fucked.
Why?
I think he was a hunchback, more or less.
He was not. He was pretty. He was
Erect.
up there. Erect. Ew.
Oh,
Erect.
I think Goots has ever had an erection. Do you think Goots?
Can,
Do you think Goots is sexually active?
You said it right for a second.
Goots.
Goots.
Goats.
I want to make like a tier list of your mispronunciations.
So he's the only one. Tarja.
Gigaflare, Jote.
I never said Jote.
You absolutely did.
He never
You
said
did.
Jote.
In the beginning you did.
Jote all the way. Maybe I said Jote in jest, but I'm not that stupid.
Are you sure?
I'm not the person that goes Juan.
You've definitely mispronounced a couple of Hispanic people's names before.
No.
Jose. Jose! Thank you, mate.
Yeah. Finally, we can do videos.
Yeah. So,
I don't even know where to begin.
Clive. Whether Clive's alright or not.
Clive's not alright.
Clive not alright. Which sucks for me.
Imagine that Mid was just sailing her ship and just showed up on the beach. Just
You alright,
last
Clive?
bit of petrification on his eye. You alright, Clive?
I need you to go get me 3 tusks. He's just like,
Fuck.
fucking dying.
Get chill.
Where's my wife? Anybody else?
Or he's just hanging on. The petrification's not taking. He sees Mid and he's just like,
Just give up. Just give up on life at that point.
wow, 16 done and done. And we can finally make some juicy contento.
Yeah.
And man, I wasn't expecting this to be the nature of the discussion we're having around 16. This arguing about what is, what was. No sooner had I finished the game, I was getting bombarded with what I can tell people that they'd had these paragraphs like
Just copy
pasted on their hard drives, in the notepads, and I just got rattle gunned with, here is my 10-point checklist as to why Clive is alive, and anyone else who doesn't see it is ignorant and dumb. And on the inverse, I had people post me Clive dies. And everyone else are just foolish copium nerds that can't handle bitter, gritty endings, and it's crazy.
We've had all sorts, haven't we?
There's so much to break down in the fate of Clive, and we're going to focus just on Clive in this video. Joshua and Dion, they deserve their own video.
Yeah.
There's a whole section we can speak about with them. So I thought, well, the obvious poll is the good ending and the bad ending. And I thought, Jesus, no matter which one we cover, we're going to get the opposite tribalistic camp rail on us.
You're stupid for thinking anything other than what I think.
And I get why people feel this strongly. I think it's kind of a bit childish, especially when what is clear to me, guys, what's very, very clear is Clive has become a Schrodinger's cat. He's a Schrodinger's cat. He's both dead and alive. It just depends who's looking in the box on what given day. And like the game pointed out, like I think it was Vivian, I do think it was significant her saying, truth is just something that when you believe, enough people believe it, or if you believe it enough, that becomes the truth. There's definitely all of this language.
There's a reason why they put that in there.
Yeah, that they were teeing us up. I can see the roadmap of it so clearly, of all these little weaves, all of these little thematic ties, even a lot of the symbolism that was weaved into the game was all leading up to this. Yoshi P giving us an ambiguous, interpretive ending. Something that you kind of said he really, really cared about, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's seen his interviews, I think the one that he did before the game even came out, where he was very, you know, Yoshi P, anybody who's seen any kind of interviews from him would know that he's a very, like, he cares a lot.
So much.
He cares a lot about the stuff that he does. And
he ain't just a pump and dump director.
No, he's not. And he cared so much about this game in particular, having to be off of the back of 15, which was widely considered to be kind of disastrous and not a complete. He said
it's true, but it hurts.
He said so himself that
it's like the sun. We don't look at it directly. We know it's up there, but we don't look at it.
I've been looking at it directly for a long time and have accepted it. And it's like he said so himself that it was an incomplete game, that they let fans down because they didn't deliver on one of the pillars that Final Fantasy is, which is story. And one of the things that he mentioned in that interview was that he really can't wait to see what fans' reaction to the ending would be. Yeah. And it's because he cares so much about the story.
And I think it's because he cares so much. We were saying this is why we've got this ending, which is non-committal to either side. Clive lives or dies. Leave it in fans' hands so that everyone can be happy. And yeah, just starting this as an overview before we go into like the facts of Clive Lives. That's going to be what we're going to cover on this video. The good ending. What's all the supporting evidence of it? Got to caveat at the gate. Me and Bree, we are in the Clive dies camp.
Yeah.
Just going to say that.
That's the camp.
But and as much as we wanted to naturally, because you got to pick your bias. That's the purpose of this ending. This is what is so baffling to me that people don't get. This is obviously the point. There's obviously so much evidence for both, and you get to pick. Now, do I like that? No. I would like a conclusive, decisive ending. Yeah. I can see the merit of an interpretive ending, but like you were saying, there's few games and there's few media that does it right.
Yeah.
Does it right.
It's very hard to land something like this.
And really, this interpretive ending, especially before we even just talk about Clive dies, you know, the kids in the future, the planet lived on, it was very FF7 ending. Nanaki over Midgar, you have no context of the people you've been on in the journey, what happened, what their post stories, it's just the world lived on. And of course...
all your questions are just me.
And the thing is, a lot of people go, why don't you find that powerful ending? Because I don't like 7's ending. I've always said that. And I want the remake to change it. And people are like, well, why don't you find it powerful that what you were fighting for through the whole game happened? And it's like, because you could do so much more. Because I can assume that the world lived on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to see a scene. Or even if I do see a scene, that can't be the only detail of it.
And it's not necessarily what you've gotten attached to. What we've gotten attached to is the characters.
Yeah, if anything, you know, Brie made a good point. It's like when you actually go through the world, what's left of it, what it's been reduced to, the quality of the people in it. I actually kind of hate.
I'm like, fuck this world.
I hate the world.
This world sucks. Fucking sucks.
But no, like, of course, like, Clive going the whole journey, saving the world, deleting magic from the world, therefore removing the blight, giving future generations a chance, which that is future generations. Like, let's just be clear. There's one thing, there's a lot of this evidence I can go, I see your point there, I see your point there. The one thing I'm going to say, absolute www.yougothatbackwards.com is that woman with the kids at the end, that was Jill.
You're bugging.
And those are her and Clive's kids.
You're bugging.
Obviously, things take millennia, or at least half a millennia. What, 500 years?
500 years
to fade into myth.
Yeah. Because even 100 years, your grandma was there for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's like everything in World War II, like now being like a myth.
Yeah, that's bizarre. It's
Nazis didn't really happen.
Well, there are people that deny their Holocaust.
Oh, that is actually true.
It does exist, and it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, shit. That's.
It's against the point because those people are actually insane and most people don't.
But of
have
course,
that
those kids just like the mother's like magic icons, like what a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So we're talking way out in the future. So absolutely, that's no connection to Clive and Jill. Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe it's an ancestor.
Descendants, yeah.
And the only thing that would tell for that is the like imagery, familiarity of black-haired boy, young Clive.
Feels like kind of a stretch regardless.
Blonde, little dog, the boy loving the saint and the secretary story, that's still existing, which I think the point of that, War of the Icons story, Farm Fantasy, the Book of Joshua, authored by Joshua Rossfield, really tied with what the game was theming, that not only in our personal lives do we follow like stories, and our stories sort of play, and there's sort of predetermined elements of it, and everything with mythos and Benedicta following her story and her fate. It did play like a fairy tale. I say like not just a fairy tale, but even the whole game almost had like an anime flair to it.
Well, yeah.
16 did have an anime flair. A lot of people thought it wouldn't have that. It would just be like medieval and grounded, and it did have that. Obviously, it didn't have the same kind of over the top and ridiculousness of some anime flair, but I definitely felt it in there.
I felt it too.
And
it was there.
The main point is that seeing that ending and the biggest ending, I don't like it, guys. I gotta be honest with it. My net feeling coming away from the ending of 16 was negative. It actually felt like a 15 role reversal, weirdly enough.
That's what I was saying too.
Whereas, 15 ended so strong. I was bawling, I was crying, it was everything. Noctis became that king, the bros saluted him, the campfire scene, the showdown with a genuinely spectacular villain like Arden. Huge, and I was left on like this 15 euphoria.
Carried it.
Yeah, where all I could see was the beauty of this game. That was my initial post feeling. Then as I marinated with it, all of the icky flaws came in. All of the hollowed out story elements, and
it's like, damn, I spent that much time doing that.
Yeah, and so it became more negative.
Yeah.
16 is totally the opposite. Ending made me come away feeling blah.
Unsatisfied.
All the criticisms of the game, Ultima, his motive, his incentive, his build-up, his setup, his story, the play of the end, the pacing, which we'll talk about in another video, like the pacing, and there's all these other areas that felt really rushed and unsatisfying. And then I had to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of 16. I was like, oh, that was a great game. That was a great story. I freaking love this game. Like 16 rocks, and it's just crazy that total.
Yeah, that was the first
between the two main lines.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind as well. Whenever I was like thinking of comparing it to 15 afterwards, I was just like, damn, this. I wanted to love the ending so bad.
I still am trying to. This is the place I'm at, guys. And why I also, as much as I'm saying about all those people who are really extremist and kind of bandwagony and camping, very intense. And hurling insults
very upset.
I understand, because I know the power of an ending. An ending is so freaking powerful. It has such an impact. I mean, just to feel it with 15 and now with 16, like why these things, and the resolution is so significant.
It's very important. I mean, it's ruined the game for some people.
Yeah.
That's how important an ending is. So
I totally understand why. But this is where I have, because I did it with 15, I had to, and it's much harder with 15 because I love the ending, but I had to reconcile the rest of it and find a beautiful place with it. I don't have to try so hard with 16, but I am having to work to finding a beautiful place with it. And that's why we've got to weigh up whether Clive lived or Clive died. Let's go. Flash. So yeah, we're in the Clive dice camp. That's where we're leaning. And we wanted to speak about that first, but we knew that because the Clive lives camp are far more passionate and accusing anyone who doesn't see that Clive 10,000% lived. Not 1,000, not 100, 10,000. And if you can't see that, You're an ignorant.
Stupid.
Because the thing is, the Clive die scenario is obviously what the game presents us with. That's what the emotion, that's what the weight is there. Gav crying, Jill, Torvalds, howls. That's where your emotions are led to, and that's what you're feeling into.
The language that Clive uses as well, but we'll get into all that.
We'll get into all of that. More on the Clive die side. And I say that's what it leans into, allow you to feel. It didn't actually fully allow you to feel it. That's kind of why I felt so emotionally stagnated. So I wanted to like have this emotional release, and that the power and the potency of that feeling, I both don't like it, but then I also recognize because I feel that way, that is a merit to the game. That is a merit to how much it's pulled me in emotionally. Yeah, I've been invested in these characters. So to feel that and to feel the weight of that frustration and that want to just... It's a credit to the game, but you have to take a step back to recognize that that's a credit to the game. Your initial feeling is, you fucking ruined the ending. Yeah. You ruined the ending.
And there's a reason for that, because it's obviously, like, you could have gone all the way, and instead, by having all these other little nuggets of possibility, there is no fully satisfying option. Whichever camp any of you are in, there's no possibility for something that is fully fleshed out and satisfying.
And whatever camp you pick, I think the satisfaction is something that you as a player
have to make
come
up
to.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I've always advocated for a game not just totally spoon feeding you everything.
Show not tell, that sort of thing.
Show not tell, yeah. The monster that you don't fully describe is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, but also just like writing is definitely like, rather than just spelling things out, like have you ever seen a line of dialogue where people are just like, this thing just happened. Yes, that thing just happened. It made me feel this way. Instead of just showing the thing happening and then showing the emotion on the person's face. I think 16 did a good job about show, not tell for the most part. Yeah. But I think they went a little bit too far of not even showing. You know? You're not even showing, so it's like, we're out. But alas, Clive, did he live? Let's find out.
Hollywood stars. What do they know?
Do they know things? Let's find out.
Now this, I believe you will find most interesting.
Okay, hopefully I can get all of this in the right order, guys, because of course I only finished the game 2 days ago. So Clive, he gets the power, yeets, punches his squishy little face, gets his power, and then with the power of God, damn, Clive could do anything. Become ruler of the universe. Do anything with it. He decides to give humanity a shot on his terms. He does say, wow, this vessel can't control all of Altman's power after all.
Yeah, it wasn't a good vessel.
Which we'll talk about that more in the Clive die section. But he eats it, washes up on the beach, slowly petrifying. You see it go, we see it progressing, it's in the fingers, and then it goes down to the forearm. And it's at that point, Meteor poofs in the sky. Now, the Clive lives scenario immediately plays on, well, we don't know if it's going to progress past the arm.
We don't see it.
We saw it with Sid, he had it up to his arm, and it sort of stopped there. Lived a while longer. And I know with like Joshua saying, if this wound doesn't get me, the curse is going to get me. So it's like, even if the petrification stalls there, will Clive eventually die? Will Jill eventually die?
That's what's been hinted towards us with other bearers, how they've stopped using their magic, yet they still die.
They still eventually die, it comes from eventually. Now, so we have 2 scenarios of Clive lives. It's Clive lives, but he's only going to live for a while longer. Or, after Meteor poofed, magic is gone.
And it cures the curse.
Kind of, and it's possible, right? Because the mother crystals have always been slurp-derping either from the planet, net negative, coming out of the planet. Now, and that's where we see the very fertile land at the end, very lively, very vibrant. All that ether is able to soak back into the world. Would that then reverse any of that kind of petrification? Humans who needed the mother crystal and the proximity are now fused with that life force again. Petrification gone. It's possible. Can't argue with it. Then there's the symbolism. So it's the thematic symbolism of, say, Meteor being back when Jill was a child and she prayed up to Meteor for Clive to be safe during Phoenix Gate, and her wish came true.
Yes.
Now, of course, we don't know if that's just a hollow wish.
Yeah, it's...
Unless there's actually some sort of like magic
prayers
up there. Yeah, like prayers actually being answered. And her prayer actually legitimately did save Clive. And therefore, when she's looking up, when Meteor disappears, she's making a prayer for Clive to live. And that's when the sun comes up. That's when she turns. And we're going to talk about Jill's smiles in the next video, because me and Bree, we're both in the camp that is not a smile of, I've seen a ship, I've seen Clive. There is no ship!
There's no ship.
I've got, somebody was like typing, there's a ship. She
People
sees a ship.
People keep saying that. The ship. There's no ship! I've looked and looked and there's no ship.
Why are you fibbing?
You're a liar, and it's a stinky thing to do.
Like, at that point, like, that's where sort of Clive lives camp kind of lose me. And that is what copium, because I don't
That's negative copium.
Yeah, that's negative copium. There is such a thing as copium.
Yeah.
Trust me. I inject it into my veins all the time. I need copium to deal with things.
I do it on a daily basis.
Yeah. But when you're doing copium to the point where you say shit is there that isn't there.
That's the bad version of it.
That's the bad version of copium. Yeah, because she turns, the sun comes up, and you see, she's obviously mourning heavily after Meteor disappears. And we've spoken about, why she immediately bursts into tears. In the Clive lives scenario, how do we reconcile Gav, Jill, Torgal's Hal in this Clive lives scenario?
So I think it's just a matter of, if you're going with Clive lives, what I've seen people say, and what kind of, I'm like, okay, I could see that making sense, is that because Jill obviously doesn't know all of the details of what's going on here. She's not there. She might not understand that Media being yeeted could be actually a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. What she views it as is like that equals Clive for her.
Yeah, that equals Clive for her, and arguably it could also
dying equals Clive dying in her brain.
It could also equal the feeling that she's had, because we've seen it before that the dominants can sense each other. They sense each other, there's like an affinity, there's a connection. They've literally magically bonded during beach sexy times. So a part of her Shiva power is in him. And just like we saw with
And
Garuda.
they can sense each other even without that.
Even without that, yeah. So the fact that when that disappears, she feels the connection to Clive gone, and damn, he's dead. But that could be a misinterpretation in the Clive lives scenario. And then I've seen with, Torgal howling, some people said that's not a mournful Torgal howl. I do think it is. But the argument, we're just presenting the arguments, that is what a Bork does when it's summoning a pack member, and it's calling to a pack member. The other symbolic link, well, this goes to people really railing to me when I was even just considering Clive dying. I'm feeling into it, and again, Clive lives people, you need to calm down. Some of you need to chill your jets.
Chill out.
Because there I am literally trying to mourn what the game is telling me to mourn. Gav weeping that hard, this is what Sid would have wanted. The world is for you now. This is what
they both would have wanted.
The game is telling me to feel into it, and I've got like people, before I'm even able to process shit, they're like, well, you clearly haven't done the Harpocrates side quest.
It's like, yes.
Yeah, I have.
Yes, he has.
I have done it, and I know that, in that quest, he said that after this is over, put down the sword and maybe pick up the quill. And I think you actually get a quill and you can stick it on the mantle piece.
And he's like, yeah,
Hey.
Essentially, Clive's like, yeah, I might.
I don't reckon Clive's literate. Of course he is. He's a Rosarian prince.
He is. He just doesn't seem to be that interested in all that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Maybe he picks it up, and that's where the biggest argument. And I do agree on this, guys. I have looked and I have tried to muddle the book. That is 500 or millennia in the future, and there's two parts of it, authored by Joshua Rossfield, titled Final Fantasy. Now, immediately a lot of people are saying, yep, Clive lived and he picked up the pen and he penned it in on his brother's legacy. Penned himself under his brother's name. And I was like, okay, I could see that. we'll talk about this in the Clive dies scenario because we have to reconcile this book, and I find the book is harder to reconcile in the dies scenario because you've got a question, well, who else would have wrote it on behalf of Joshua, and who would have been privy to all of the information?
Or you would have to accept that it was Joshua that wrote it, if Clive didn't.
Yeah, and that would be Joshua lives and Clive dies, which I see very, very unlikely a scenario. I mean, there's a scenario both of them are living. I personally again think all three died.
Yeah.
But the most compelling part is it being called Final Fantasy, because who would come up with that title? Because we saw just before we battered Ultima's face in, there was that line, the only fantasy here is yours and we shall be its final witness. Mm-hmm. Clive said the line. Clive said the line.
He said the line.
In a roundabout way, fantasy and final. And then, like if that was one of the last things that you yelled in God's face before you smacked him on the conch, you kind of like, what am I going to call this book? Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy. Mm. Who else would come up with that name? Like, really?
You can make an argument that Joshua could have potentially, but I think the argument for they both died, who would publish the book? Because that argument is that Joshua had a book already in the making, and either Yote or somebody else in the Undying published it, and it's like either Joshua already had a title set out, and it's something that and that's the thing with all of these. It's all reaching. It's all stretching. You got to really stretch and you got to really reach to come to this conclusion. But that's...
Well, that's exactly what I think they've done. They've put things in there where people can reach, but it has to remain a reach.
Yeah.
Because that's what keeps it ambiguous.
Yep.
That's what keeps it amorphous. And when I see people saying, in a month from now, Yoshi P is going to come out and confirm that Clive is alive, making all of those Clive died haters look embarrassed. I've seen people saying that, they're legitimately convinced in a month or two Yoshi P is going to come out and tell us.
He ain't going to do that.
They did not set this up in this format, in this way, where it's this suggestive stuff. It could mean that, it could mean that. Well, we don't know that. Well, you're stretching for that. It's because there's no definitive.
Yeah, they put a lot of effort into making that a thing.
Yeah, that's what makes Clive the Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
And
why would they just be like, oh yeah, I know we put all of this effort and work into letting you guys pick your own ending, but this is what it actually is, just in an interview or something. I don't know why you think that that's going to happen. Yeah. It's just not.
And the other biggest symbolism one, it is, for Clive Lives, absolutely the weight and emphasis and the number of times they rehashed it. I think it happened in the Clive and Jill side quest, where they got on their little date. Very squee, very wholesome. Can I just take a moment for the I love yous? I love yous before they went out.
That was very cute.
I love you, Jill.
I know. I love you too.
So freaking cute. Which actually, those I love yous, as well as Dion's certainty of what was coming and the rejection of Harpocrates' flower. I need to save that for Clive dies. Because again, that's the thing. Symbolism works on both sides of the aisle.
That's the thing it's how you interpret it.
Because there's as much as them saying about surviving this, creating a world where we're going to live. Clive's promise to Jill that he would come back. And then again, Joshua's emphasis, he was doing that whole line of faith. The reason why we're going to do this is because of faith, the faith that people have put in you, the faith that I have in you. So proud for you to be, thank you for being my brother. Oh.
That shit hurted.
God, some of the scripting in this ending, this is why I'm in this 50-50 place, because on a level it was so beautiful. Some of the scripting in there, some of the emotions, the rawness of it, how organic, how authentic, how emotive it was. But even say with that moment with Joshua saying that, just before that, it's let me quickly remind you.
Let's drop some Ultima lore.
5 lines of dying breath, half of them are committed to.
Listen to me. Jelly.
Describing what Ultima is, and it's Ultima is just a basic pre-Final Fantasy V god, arsehole god.
He didn't have
let's
to
be real. He does not match up to, in terms of his presentation, when I first saw him, I thought, whoa,
I was like,
this villain, this is the most creepy, hollow, freaky.
He's a creep.
He almost had that same kind of intensity as Kefka. Like, in different ways, of course.
Yeah.
But it's like you see Kefka, it's wow.
Like the presence of like when you first see Sephiroth, right? Like those kind of things. You first see these villains and you're just like, oh shit.
But then what happens with, even Kefka, it's a very basic, he was a soldier corrupted by Magitech, his mind just broke, and that's all there is to it.
So he's crazy.
He's crazy. But at least there's something, and then Sephiroth, big backstory, and we have that with all the villains, the quality of the villains that have come into the series up until this point. Now even Seymour, again, you can say whether you like him or hate him, but you knew his motives, you knew his reasons, you knew the origins of things. It wasn't just, this is God, he is everything, he is a dick. And especially when we start getting to Arden and Caius Ballard, or you start looking at the quality of, again, you've not played 14, but Emmett Selk, La Habrea. How was Ultima so hollow? He was hollow because he didn't have a single shred of humanity in him, but the writing around him was really, really freaking hollow. And you can tell when Josh was having to re-explain that hollow nonsense. But the point I was making is, in that speech about faith, he said, faith that you will live through this. That is what steels our bonds.
No, it's Jill's faith that you will save yourself.
That's the one. You muddle in some of those, it does add a little bit of weight to the Clive lives camp. Because it's like, Joshua's dying words, his promise to Jill, he didn't follow through on those.
He didn't.
He couldn't. That's part of the symbolism. But for as much symbolism as there been of living and surviving through this, there have also been, we ain't coming back. We know we ain't coming back.
There's stuff in each camp, which is why there's so many different possibilities that people have come up with, including the one where people are like, no, this story didn't actually happen. It was just a storybook written by Josh.
Yeah.
It was never actually real at all.
So that's
the most like painful one for me. I'm just like, no, that just makes it all stinky.
That's not even painful. That's just meaningless. That is, to anyone who leans their resolution on this, it's not Clive dies, it's not Clive lives. A boy called Joshua is a regular boy, wrote a fantastical story. That's the same as, and then he woke up.
I hate that shit.
And then he woke up. Right. That has never been good story writing. Whoever first did that didn't work then. It's never worked now.
You can make the argument for it, though, is why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, and you can...
You can make that argument. You can make any of these arguments.
You can make an argument that, fantasy and reality kind of reflect and influence one another. I kind of said with that fairy tale aspect, it was like so cool, obviously, to me that, when Clive was with Uncle Byron, he was pulling off that pose of being Sir Crandall of Camelot. That's almost the same pose as "Come to me, free," and also when he was using Ultima's power at the end. It's like Clive when he was doing Crandall and he was envisioning himself as a hero. That when he actually became a hero in this, there was like the little boy in there kind of playing the hero. Kind of. And the fact that they reflected that in the future, where the kids still know about the story of Saint Secretary and making the little dog, Bahamut. And, they want to play Ifrit, which again, you've got to interpret that as Clive being Ifrit, and Ifrit was kind of registered in the War of the Icons as being the hero. Because every boy wants to play the main hero, right?
Of course.
So him wanting to play Ifrit, No.
What else about Clive Lives?
There was one other thing, and again, this is the same kind of interpretation you could do. It was the end theme. So some people are saying, you just listen to the lyrics. Just look at the lyrics. It's about a lover reuniting, and that's clearly showing us that Clive lives. So I didn't know what song they were looking at, so I pulled up both.
Yeah.
I don't see it either. Again, My Star, I'll put the lyrics up.
Yeah, put them up.
Put them between us here. There's so much in here that you can take one or the other. Star bright, I hear you calling. Fire that filled the night. Fire that warmed and brightened my life. My guiding light. My hearth, my beacon and hope. Should they fade, I will not be afraid of the dark, for your flame still burns inside of me, deep within my heart, showing me a new tomorrow, never too far. And when I read that, that is, and that's kind of how I raised it with Jill's smile as well. It's like, he's gone, but his legacy,
but I still,
my love, he's still in my heart. Yeah. You know, so someone's still being there and never too far. You can. I personally interpret that on a heart level.
I mean, other people says like deep within my heart.
Nah, that means never too far. Like he's on the fucking horizon. He's coming on the ship. Look, do you not see the ship? There's a bloody boat there.
Stinky ship.
Fucking Clive. Look, he's bobbing in the surf.
But it even says deep within my heart, not you are now alive and right next to me. Like,
what is that? Mean
which
thing?
Both songs are great, by the way.
Oh,
just
God.
to say.
The song was beautiful. Such a beautiful song. And it was like just Clive there at the end. And again, this is one thing I've just loved from start to finish. And absolutely one of the most beautiful things about 16. I've said it's the micro expressions, it's the subtlety of it. Like even in that moment of just like Clive's eyes just like flickering and, you know, fading, just lonely on a beach and having Jill just be the last thing in his thoughts.
Yeah, that was like,
wow.
You see it too, Jill.
Yeah.
Oof.
And that's the thing, like when I feel into that, which is Clive dies. Well, I'll talk about more of this on the next video.
Yeah, I feel like we keep like wanting to dip into
this
it.
Is a really
so many
hard.
Thoughts on
this
it.
is a really hard video
it's
to
hard.
separate between good and bad ending because they do merge into each other.
I don't think that good and bad is a good way to put it.
Well, that's the thing. I agree. I was thinking that. Like, calling this video the good ending. Like, we got a question. Is it a good ending? Because
if
Clive dying and Clive, with the power of God, like creating a world that wasn't for himself and dying lonely, fucking shuddering on a beach, is that bad? No. It's just how you term good and bad, right? But I don't know if I necessarily think. So we might as well just conclude with our final feelings on this. Clive lives for me is a tough one. Because what would be the beauty in Clive living in this scenario? We
asked each other that question and we both felt very silent.
We did.
And we couldn't.
Like, I suppose thinking about it now, of course the obvious one is after everything he went through, after all of this hardship and suffering and all that he's looked to build. And also this new love with Jill that while they've been together, see we've gone back and forth on this, like they've been together for over 5 years. Longer if you obviously include childhood, but 5 years as adults, their love only really just like blossomed. It only just became like a ship, the actual like love and relationship between them. And of course, is it nice to think that they both deserve the happy ending, that they both deserve to not have that new spark and
after
that
all
flame
the bullshit that they went through,
fucking doused by Ulmer's fucking big veiny grey dick.
Stop saying that. Ew.
All right, I'll go back to call him necrotic Joe Biden. You alright with that?
Joe Biden.
Of course, any hero, any good person, deserves goodness. In the world of karma, those who do good deeds and do good for others, it comes back to them, and they get to live a full, happy life. But the problem is, I would be happy if I saw that, but I haven't seen that.
That's the problem.
So everything with the Clive Live scenarios, I have to imagine it. I have to step into fan fiction territories. And what does that look like?
And also,
he went back. Did he help reform nations? Did he continue the hideaway and their crew? Did he rebuild a new world? Did him and Jill get married? And at that point, it just becomes...
It's like, as an adult,
it's just a nice idea.
I don't got time to be making up my own fan fiction. You know, like I just want my video game ending to be a video game ending, an actual ending, and not be like, oh, here, make up your own. I don't fucking feel like it. To be honest, I don't feel like it. And beyond that, yeah, it feels like if we didn't see like Jill crying, Torgal howling, Gav crying, then maybe I'd feel a little bit more okay. Like if we had a few more nuggets, then maybe I would be more inclined to go to that. But the emotional weight that
we did see.
Yeah, it's like that's what makes me like I can't.
Because that's the thing.
See any reason to think that he's alive?
Yeah, the tears in Gav's face, and that in Jill's.
You're telling me that's all for nothing?
Torgal. That's the thing. For what we did see, the Clive listener is going, yeah, sorry guys, you actually like faked out there. Like, you were faked out. He actually shows up. Gav's just like, bro,
it just seems like.
So yeah, their tears were
not as powerful to me.
Misguided, misdirected.
Yeah.
So actually, for me, then it becomes a subtraction, and
from what we already have seen.
Yeah.
And we've already felt.
It becomes a subtraction. I understand why for others it is an addition, because I suppose it would play into again the symbolic aspect of living, of doing this thing to live, of keeping a promise, of the beauty of a lover wishing her partner his survival, and that being answered with the last drop of magic as the world is reformed. Like there is something that you could say is like poetic and beautiful in that.
There's no follow through though.
But that's the thing, that'd be for some people. For some people, the weight of that is going to be more beautiful. For me, it personally isn't, because there's no part of me, I need a character to survive to feel okay. It's like when Noctis went down.
It's fine with it.
It hurts, of course. But I can process that. I can find that beautiful. I can feel that profound, significant. That doesn't make what they did and what they went through a reduction. Right? Yeah. Because it is bigger than just the protagonist. I feel like that's the thing. I'm in this weird middle place where I play the games in a part for the characters, but it's not entirely for the characters. It's not like everything in this has to be all the characters get their happy ever afters. There is a bigger picture than that, but the bigger picture also then isn't just fully the world lives on. The world lives on. Like, we don't know where the 7 crew are, or if humans survived at the end of 7 and all that sort of stuff.
To say that you care about the characters doesn't necessarily automatically equal I don't want people to die.
You know what I care about? It is honestly more both the characters and humanity. That's kind of what I would have liked to see at the end. It's kind of what I want 7 Remake to do and what I've liked 16 to do. What I want 7 Remake to do with the ending, I've said it before, is I want to see a true Neo Midgar. Just like it was advertised, where they've actually learned from their mistakes about fucking up the planet, showing humans living in harmony, an eco-green city that is, not destroying the planet. And then there's been a true ideological shift, because I think that when you get to see that, like we haven't seen some Final Fantasies, that can be really, to me, inspiring. Because you're going through this whole game seeing just the worst aspects of humanity.
Yeah.
You kind of want to see, what was this all for?
Yeah, like seeing people be kind to each other.
Yeah.
And I don't really get that from
16.
I don't get that from 2 kids playing.
2 kids playing. And that's the thing. The thing with the 2 kids playing
not enough.
is you could have done that, but all you had to simply do to make that better, in my opinion, is then pan out from that house and show me a broader, what is this, Rosaria landscape? It kind of looked like a Rosaria sort of structured house. Show me something. Show me how humanity have moved. Because actually what with that ending, it showed they were still living like medieval peasants.
Yeah, like they've not gone anywhere, even though there are people like Mid in the world. Mid didn't die, for sure.
Starting the process of technological evolution.
Yeah, her and the other people from Canberra. It's like, I know a lot of them died, but it's not like, I can't imagine that every single one of them died.
Yeah.
So it's like...
So we have to assume that nearly half a millennia has passed.
And fucking nothing happened.
There's been no progress.
Just none.
But not just technologically, because I can kind of be okay with, it doesn't necessarily mean that humans becoming technologically evolved equals a better world. Not necessarily. Maybe it is actually we've learned to live within our means. Simple joys, simple having not just our wants, just our needs. But we also don't necessarily see that. Just because we see a mother with 2 happy kids, we don't know the rest of the world aren't still a bunch of nefarious assholes.
Yeah, this could just be one happy cottage in the...
Just bigoted.
One happy cottage in the woods.
Like, yeah, I mean, you can say that, yeah, there's the bearer class is no longer existing. Everyone in this world is white, so... no room for racism!
Yay!
But, do you know what I mean? We just didn't see any, like, either social or technological reform, and therefore, it really does just fall on the planet itself survived. And, you know, I don't necessarily, that's not the full picture of what I care about.
Yeah.
Neither is it with just the individual protagonists we followed. Mine is very nuanced, middle ground.
I personally thought it would be a lot more powerful to see bearers and people trying to get along without magic as that is happening, because that is where the biggest struggle would be. Like, just seeing people starting to, you know, get along. Because I would wonder, like, bears, I imagine, aren't immediately going to be free of all discrimination.
Of course I will.
Immediately free of all discrimination.
Well, as in... So I suppose what you're saying is even though magic's gone, these individuals would still be branded and marked.
Maybe not necessarily branded and marked, but still...
discriminated?
People that are already branded.
Yeah, would they still be discriminated in a world even though they no longer have magic?
Yeah, because they were born as an other. So I feel that would take some time for people to come around
I think it can maybe do the opposite, because if you think about it, the world had become dependent and reliant on bearers and their magic. You know, we saw that quest with the Forge. You know, they were using like bearers to do the Forge, and they've had them do like menial tasks and shit. Now, when their magic's gone, that's going to cause some societal disruption. Huge like economic implications. And what we saw was Clive and the Hideaway, because they were the first ones to start transitioning off of magic. You know, when Clive showed them the new Forge, the Sidolphus Forge thing, where they made the Telemon Forge. Yeah, you could argue the Hideaway could have a major influence in... Not only would the world recognise what service the bearers did give to the world...
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
They would also become dependent on the Hideaway and their new technologies and switching off, and maybe that in a way... Yeah, it wouldn't happen instantly.
Yeah, that's the point, is it, like, that's what I would like to see, is that process.
Yeah, that's true.
You know...
That's true.
Of people getting used to not being able to use magic, people... starting to accept bearers and not being so discriminatory against them, because that's the thing. Even if they don't have magic anymore, you could argue that would make people more angry. You're useless now.
Yeah.
You were already useless to us, and now you're even more useless. So it's like, because people are hateful, you know? Yeah. So that has to slowly die out over time, I think.
I do feel like that is the kind of ending. When I think back to the previous Final Fantasies, the ones with endings that I really bloody loved, is it's when you see them in a near time span. You see the characters again, not too far. For example, 10. Yuna giving her speech. After the event, speech to the rest of the people there. Huge. 12, Ash, you know, she's off doing her thing. Penelo through the markets. Blanche von Bootyberg. Von Ronsenberg, you know, the thing with his brother, like little moments with the characters just a bit off.
And a lot of them do that. 9 did it, 8 did it.
Yep, 9, Zidane and Garnet reuniting and
having a little party at 8.
Those are
seeing
the
everybody.
I like.
Yeah.
And that is what kind of, and that's not just because it's I get to see all the characters happy ever after. No, Yuna's wasn't happy ever after.
No.
The world was looking to change, and there had been like hope of a new future, which is the thing with Final Fantasy. It's got to leave off on that hope. And I get that in 16, that is what that sun said. That's what that sun said. That,
sunrise.
Sunrise. That Jill clocked, and that was the purpose of her smile. To show that theme of hope. Oh yeah, Type 0. That's how Type 0 was. You know, Rem, Machina standing there,
You really don't know.
I don't know my sunsets from a sunrise. I think it was sunset in that. I might be sunrise. But that was exactly the same. Anyone who is like confused on like Jill's smile, go and see other games, other Final Fantasies, specifically Type 0. Something terrible has just happened. But when the sun comes, you just get that moment of, okay, here we go. That's what Final Fantasy, that's what Final Fantasy has always been about. It's about hope, and yeah, sometimes I like to see that hope shown to us in a little bit more substantive way.
Yeah,
than
something
what this,
that we can kind of
what this is.
Care about a little bit more.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It did make the ending feel kind of unsubstantive, and that's not purely just from the ending or the three characters dying or not dying, where it will be. We do think die. We'll cover that in the next video. There's way more to it than that. The pacing, the structure, the flow of things, the conclusions. So many open-ended questions.
For real.
And we're going to cover all of them.
We are.
But yeah, my last video I posted, I put the comment, and I really, really feel this. A couple of days later, and I'm still stuck at the 50-50 point with this ending. Beautiful, question mark, bad, meaningful, rushed, bold, cowardly. I feel like it's all of them. It is. There's beautiful parts of it, but it's also just very, very meaningful, but also no meaning whatsoever.
Yeah. You take the meaning away from it whenever you make something so amorphous.
Is it
like
a very
this.
bold direction?
I think.
Sure.
This is all opinion-based, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be very, very clear.
There's an ambiguous ending that sets up so much charge and so much setup on both sides. Is that a bold thing to do? I mean, is it bold to have Clive going that way? It's like, to a degree, yes. But then is it also cowardly to go, we want something that everyone can be happy with. We don't want to like ruffle anyone's like.
And I understand why they did that though. You have to understand because 15 had a very bad reception.
I want everyone to like this ending. I want them to like it so much. So let's stick something in here that
everyone's going to be happy.
And there is a point. It's kind of like politics. It's like when you try to appeal to everyone, when you try to create a tent so large that everyone can fit under it. Sometimes no one can.
Happy,
sometimes, and I do feel like they have done this here. Again, there are people who are very happy with this ending. I've seen some people say this is the best ending. This is their favorite ending.
And some people said this is the worst.
This is the worst.
They hate it. It ruined the whole game for them.
Yeah, and
I'm not in that camp.
For me, this ending hasn't ruined the whole game.
No, I think the game.
But
it's not that bad.
Do I absolutely have a checklist, a big, fat, succulent, huge, spicy checklist of things that could have been in here and would have made it, in my opinion, way, way better? Absolutely. But we'll save that for another video.
Yeah.
We'll save that for after Clive dies.
Yeah.
If we've got anything left to speak about that. We might do.
We do. We have a lot to say.
Anyway, guys, there we go. If there's anything else you guys want to see us cover or anything you think we missed, honestly, let us know in the comment section below. Also, what side of the camp are you on? I would ask the question, are you convinced Clive lived? Or are you convinced both options exist, but your bias is that he's lived? And why? Well, why do you pick that option? What makes it compelling for you? Let's have the comment section below.
And try to be respectful.
Yeah, like try to be bigger than Reddit, because I've seen some tribalistic nonsense.
I think most of us are adults now that are Final Fantasy fans, and I hope that we can act like it. I've been seeing a lot of adults.
I'm cutting that out. You're shaming.
What? How? How's it shaming? It's true. A lot of they're acting like children.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I was going to cut that bit out, but maybe not.
Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah, something like that.
I've seen, I'm not talking about necessarily anybody in specific, but I've seen a lot of grown-ass adults acting like children over this.
The reason I was going to cut out, because I think I felt a little bit attacked.
Did you?
The reason for that is because I go into Final Fantasy, you guys see me when I'm streaming Final Fantasy, I let my child out. I let me
there's nothing wrong with letting your inner child out.
But the inner child that... preferably the one that finds joy and excitement and thrill in things, not the one who
A petulant child is what I'm speaking to. Letting your inner child out is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, not the one who spits his dummy out.
None of that.
I mean, like right here, a lot of people who somehow think he still lives is huffing humongous amounts of copium, followed by, and those who think he is dead haven't even given the slightest shit to the whole details, comments and all the story, or haven't played any other FF games their whole lives.
What? Why are people so insulted by being told that they're coping?
The back and forth.
People are so insulted by being told that they're coping. It's not an insult
followed
itself.
up, followed up. Then you've never played an FF game in your life, or Square games in general, because they always did this kind of endings. It's not just the surf or level reads. You would be wrong 100% of the time. Try huffing some media literacy.
See? People can't handle being told that they're coping, even though it's kind of true.
Just that these fan makes fools of themselves. It's funny to watch too.
It is funny to watch.
I actually agree with that.
It's very entertaining. I will say, seeing people go back and forth is entertaining, but it's also kind of sad to see people get so upset. It's okay if you're coping, bro. It's not like an insult. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. Go ahead and cope. You're fine. That's what the developers want you to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have added that shit in.
Also trying to separate facts from opinions. People trying to make opinion-based things fact. I mean, this person has done it here. You always have to disassociate facts from interpretation. So let's take facts first. After the final battle, Clive heals his brother unconscious already.
That's not a fact.
That's not a fact. It's not a fact that Joshua was just unconscious. You haven't
put an interpretation in there, bro.
Yeah, and that's how wiggly, wavy.
Ooh, so wiggly.
And this ending made me feel wiggly, man. Oh God. Oh. Clive survives and Joshua dies. This is not up for debate. 100%.
The whole point is that it is a debate.
We gotta stop. We gotta round the video out.
We do.
Right, thank you very much for watching, guys. Ding the like button.
Yeah.
And let us know anything else you want us to cover. Ask us until the next live stream.
This isn't a live stream.
I know.
Next video?
Until the next video.
The next video.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
Join the Patreon.
No, don't simp my Patreon.
Why? It's okay if I do it because it's not mine.
Oh yeah. Shout out to the Patreon crew. You guys keeping the Columbia dream alive. Keep it!
Keep.
Keep it!
Keep.